Hey, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to take a little bit of a look at this 1983 Yamaha IT 175. I don't want to start this project yet, but I want to try and get as many parts on hand as I can for it. So when I do go to build it, I'm not waiting on parts because that drives me nuts. So first thing I'm going to do is take the plug out of the transmission and see what horrors lie in there, and I want to take the head off just to see if the cylinder's seized or it's the crank. Yeah, I got the nuts off the cylinder base. I don't think the piston is seized. It wants to move. I'm just kind of gently trying to pry it up. That tells me the crank's probably gone or something else. But that's kind of good news. I don't gotta buy a jug. Well, I guess it did seize a bit. But that shouldn't make it not want to turn over. Yeah, that crank is solid. Look at that. Oh. So it's the crank is what seized. It did seize the piston too. I don't know what happened here, but it's kind of good news. There's all kinds of connecting rod kits on eBay, and I think my buddy Mike at Mike's Bikes has a. He said he might have a crank for this. He used to run a kind of motorcycle salvage business back in the 70s and 80s, so he's still got quite a bit of stuff kicking around. So we know now it's the crank. Wrist pin's bad too, and the piston. So I'll have to split these cases and see what else is going on in there.
What did happen to the last 10? I ran away with my life, fast forward, never turn back again. It's kind of funny that the more we pass time, the more we need to set them rewind. And 19 was the year I had to leave you, but now I'm seeing all the signs. Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as
So I kind of run into my first major hurdle. This swing arm pin is absolutely seized. So that swing arm has never been apart since 1983. Hardly even move it. So I don't know what I'm going to do here. I'll have to slow down and think about it so I don't bugger that shaft. Well, I'm in real trouble here. That ain't moving. I don't know how I'm going to get this apart. While I'm sitting here deciding what to do about that swing arm bolt, I Squirted some WD-40 in the crank, and I did get it spinning. So I think the crank bearings and the rod bearing seized, so I'm going to need a new crank, or at least a bearing kit and a connecting rod. You can see how hot it got here. I don't know what I'm going to do about this. I'm going to keep soaking it for now. Worst case, I phoned my buddy Mike, and he said he's had these issues before, and he's basically, at some point, you just get a hacksaw by hand in there and cut through that bolt to get it apart. I'll soak it a few days, keep trying at it, but I don't know. I've never had one quite this bad before. Good Lord, I've never had so much trouble in my life. Well, I think that's enough pain and suffering for one day. Engine's out, swing arm's out. I've never fought a swing arm pivot bolt like that in my life. It's now in 3 pieces. If I didn't have this little air-powered hacksaw, I don't know, it would have taken you days to do it by hand. Run into a new problem. Can't get the flywheel off. My puller's stripped out. Fortunately, it didn't damage the threads. So I guess I'm going to have to take this over to my buddy Mike's and see if he can get that flywheel off so I can get the crank out. I'll let him look at the cylinder while I'm there and give me a recommendation what oversized piston to order. But we're not out of the woods yet. Can't get that off. I don't know what we're going to do. So I'm back from my buddy Mike's. He did have a swing arm pivot bolt. And he was able to get the flywheel off. His puller wouldn't go on either because the threads are damaged in the flywheel. He ended up, we had 2 hammers and we were tapping it. And then he put the torch on it and tapping it. Finally come loose. We did bugger the threads on the crank a bit, but he's got to put a new connecting rod kit in anyway, so he said he can fix the threads when that happens. So I'm going to continue to take this apart and split the cases and make sure this still is salvageable, and then we'll go from there. Got my case splitter on. Apply pressure, but do it slowly. I don't want to wreck anything. So you hear the sound change. It is starting to split. It appears where all the tension is where the bearing is on the crank, so we're just going to take it easy. I don't know if you can hear it, but the sound changes as it comes. So I'll just keep working away at this. One rusty crank. That clutch has never been apart. Okay, I had a little ball bearing fallout that I don't know where it goes, so I'm putting that aside for now, and I'll have to look in the parts diagram. I'm going to pull these shift forks. Well, that's going to about do it for this episode. Got quite a few parts off the bike. Stuff I'll deal with at a later date. Definitely going to have to order a bushing kit. Everything in there is completely shot. The rest of the bike I'm just going to leave alone for now. I'm not in a big rush to start this project just yet. Just kind of wanted to figure out what I got and get the parts on the way. The crank was the big question. I got it once I got it out of the case. I went back over to Mike's and he chased these threads for me. There is a little tiny bend in this portion of the crank, but we spun it up in his tool and everything else is dead straight. So it's the only thing we could do. We couldn't get that flywheel off. He ended up selling me another flywheel with good threads. My original one, the threads were bad in here and the tool wouldn't pull it. So ended up using a couple hammers to tap the crank out. It was the only way we could get it apart. Definitely have to order a crank bearing kit. These are absolutely been sitting in water. I don't know what happened to this bike. I think it seized and then for some reason it was sitting full of water. 1 millimeter over piston is what we're going to go for. He's going to bore it out on his boring machine. Quite a few scratches there, so he figured 1 millimeter over would take care of that. Gears all look good, nothing's missing. I checked the shift forks, they're not bent. Clutch basket looks good. I still have to mic these clutch plates, replace them if they're beyond spec. But yeah, I think this project is a go. So next time you see me, it'll be restoration time. Anyway, I want to thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.